Alright, so this wasn't meant to be my next video, but I've been having a tumultuous time with editing lately. I had a 3-part Darn video series in the works, but Netflix wouldn't release it from copyright hell. I then wrote a few scripts for other videos, but I just wasn't really in the mood to discuss them. And then I had part 1 of my Star Wars project basically ready to go until my editing software crashed and deleted 2 weeks worth of work.
It's not fair!
So, because I'm salty and in a bad mood for losing my work, I thought I'd just put together a little video discussing the current state of the MCU and how Disney have kind of killed things for me. I'm probably not going out on a limb to say that the MCU has taken quite a dip in quality since Endgame. And that's not really to say the first 3 phases didn't have bad movies. The Dark World and Captain Marvel are probably the only 2 movies in that era that I just never want to watch. But most of the movies in Phase 3 are pretty fucking solid. The Infinity Saga was clearly very well planned out and had multiple overarching narratives that all led to the grand finale. Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans were basically cultural icons of the time, and they were so loved that just their presence alone would be enough to get people's asses in the seats for their movies. But other than a few members of the characters that we already love, no one else has that star charisma that the original cast had. It was magnetic. After the last saga ended, Disney thought that it would be a good idea to expand on the MCU's lore with multiple Disney Plus spin-off origin stories and follow-ups. And we've probably had about 2 shows that I actually liked. The handful of good theatrical releases was also not very substantial. I find the vast majority of the Disney Plus stuff really boring. The 2 shows that I actually liked were WandaVision and Loki, but I do just want to talk about Loki for 1 minute. This show is good for the most part, but in my opinion it is very overhyped. To me, it undermines Loki's character arc in Infinity War. Loki dies after finally embracing a redemptive arc. The show revives a version of him, which is actually the version of him from 2012, and accelerates his development into a hero way too fast for me. It feels unearned and repetitive. There's just too much philosophy and not enough stakes. Some viewers, including me, felt the show talked too much about free will, determinism, and multiverse theory, without showing enough tangible consequences. The TVA's power made previous MCU events feel pointless, as if none of it was truly real. The show just felt like a launchpad for future MCU projects rather than a focused story about Loki. And Kang's reveal felt more like an MCU strategy moment more than just a payoff to the show's own narrative. But I'll get into Kang more in a second. Moon Knight was pretty mid looking back on it. Falcon and the Winter Soldier I don't think I was in the demographic for, and I wasn't completely sold. Hawkeye made me care even less about Kate Bishop than I did before, but I guess it was nice to see Jeremy Renner again. And let's be real, you probably don't give a shit about the Echo show either. And don't even get me started on fucking She-Hulk.
Taste it there, num 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 num, eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest, you ain't never gotta heat me up.
You see, Marvel were basically on a completely different trajectory. It was more quantity over quality for some time, and I think that Kevin Feige realised that this shit just wasn't working. Nothing was really resonating with the majority of fans. What makes things worse is the TV shows aren't really geared towards the casual audience. But a casual viewer doesn't really want to sit through 10 TV shows just to be up to date with everything happening with these characters in the theatrical releases. Marvel was setting up 2 Avengers movies led by the next big villain, Kang the Conqueror, but a series of events have completely changed Marvel's original plans for the narrative. Jonathan Majors is a violent bastard, and his actions resulted in his character getting completely written out of the story. In early 2023, Jonathan Majors was arrested in New York on charges of assault and harassment, following an alleged domestic dispute. The incident led to significant public backlash and legal proceedings, with Majors maintaining his innocence throughout. As the case unfolded, more allegations of abusive behaviour surfaced, painting a broad picture of troubling conduct. Despite efforts from his legal team to discredit the claims, Majors was found guilty of reckless assault and harassment in late 2023, and the fallout was swift. Marvel Studios then dropped him, ending his future as Kang. What began as a promising career trajectory quickly turned into a cautionary tale about fame, accountability, and the long-term consequences of personal actions. Putting the controversial situation aside, I don't think Kang would have worked anyways. He's an interesting character in the comics, but the problem that I have is that there's no point in Kang being the big villain of the next saga when he loses to fucking Ant-Man in his first theatrical appearance. Also, Quantumania is fucking terrible and I fucking hate it. 3 out of 10. Fast forward to 2025 and we now have less shows to focus on, and it's very clear that Disney have put a lot of their budget into better writers and better marketing. Thunderbolts' marketing worked pretty well. Changing the name to the New Avengers post-release is a pretty cool idea. However, it did actually spoil the movie. But I will say though, Brave New World was pretty mid. The final title is just terrible, and I actually preferred the old title. But I guess Marvel didn't want it to reflect on current events happening in the real world. I couldn't really give a flying fuck about Falcon personally. But his character taking up the Captain America title does feel right, and way more appealing to a general audience. I've heard a lot of people say through the years saying, oh, Bucky should have become Captain America. And to that, I say... No. Yes, I know that Bucky became Captain America in the comics, but it only worked in the context of that story. To the general public in the MCU timeline, Bucky is a 90-year-old cyborg assassin. I mean, why would Steve give him the mantle? It just seems out of place. Since Jonathan Majors has been completely written out of the story, Marvel have had to come up with a new mainline villain. And that decision has led to this. And this has garnered a lot of hype and a lot of concerns. Ever since this was announced, the fan base have basically been split in half, with some people saying that this is a terrible idea and others saying that they could see it going somewhere. And what do I think? Well, conceptually, this is kind of odd. The problem is that we haven't seen the movie. It's hard to speculate when Marvel are trying their best to keep everything under lock and key. After No Way Home footage and costumes leaked back in 2021, I don't really think they want to risk anything. But considering this is the finale to the multiverse saga, I could see it working. Doom has gone through many different iterations in the source material, so a change in personality or motivations doesn't really bother me that much. If you're adapting a well-established character, but you do it to serve a better story, then I don't really give a fuck what you change. Look at Miles Morales in Spider-Verse. He's absolutely nothing like his comic book counterpart, but I actually think he's better for it. I just want to be entertained. Is that too much to ask for, Kevin? I'm sick and tired of watching mid-Marvel movies. I just want to see batshit insanity now. If this idea doesn't work, it's practically over for Marvel Studios. They've just been playing it so safe since Endgame. I might just be sucking on hopium, but this is quite literally sink or swim territory now. We've got a bunch of movies lined up before we get to Avengers Secret Wars. So let's break down on what's coming, what it means, and why if Fantastic Four flops, I'm going to lose my shit. Marvel's first family finally entering the MCU. If they don't stick the landing with this, I think we can just give up on making solo Fantastic Four movies. This film needs to sell us on the tone, the stakes, and the importance of the Fantastic Four in the multiverse saga. And this isn't just another origin story, this is supposed to set up everything that leads into Secret Wars. So of the announced movie projects so far, we're getting Fantastic Four, which releases in July, Spider-Man Brand New Day, which releases in July of 26, Avengers Doomsday, which did actually get delayed, and that releases December 18th, 2026, and of course Avengers Secret Wars, which releases on December 17th, 2027. And if you've never read the Secret Wars comic, I implore you to do so. Secret Wars is what resets the Marvel Universe. And that's what I think the MCU is aiming for. I feel like that it's going to be a little bit of a soft reboot, a final send-off to legacy characters and the birth of a new Marvel era. Probably bringing the X-Men fully into the fold too. But here's the catch. For any of this to work, Fantastic Four has to be a home run. Reed Richards is actually tied to the multiverse, and Doom is also tied to Secret Wars. And if they mess up this foundation, then all of the wild, reality-breaking spectacle of Secret Wars just won't land. It will just feel like CGI chaos with no soul. This could either be Marvel's redemption arc, or it could be the MCU's final spiral into irrelevance. Please, Kevin, I can't go through yet another shambolic Fantastic Four movie. Okay, I think that's all we have time for. But I will hopefully be re-editing my Star Wars project in the coming weeks, and I think it'll be worth the wait. Also, I probably don't mention it enough, but I would be so grateful if you left a like and a subscribe. A lot of care does go into these videos, and if you did enjoy this one, or any of my other videos, leave a comment and let me know what you want to see. I'm always open to suggestions, so if anyone's got anything, just have at it in the comments. So with all that out the way, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.